Let's bring in law professor at Harvard Law School, Nicholas Bowie. Nicholas, I want to get your broader take on this. I mean, we've seen a lot of pressure on institutions, media institutions who have paid out the Trump administration, tech firms who have paid out the Trump administration, donating to the inaugural ahead of the inauguration. We've seen law firms capitulate. Paul Weiss was a big one. We've seen schools do this, Columbia. How big of a deal is it to have Harvard stand up and say, no, we're not going to take part in this. We're not going to bend to the pressure?
I think it's really important. And just to reflect on what the previous speaker just said, we have laws in this country, and the laws govern what the president is allowed to do. And with respect to a lot of these institutions, including Harvard, the Trump administration has simply been ignoring them. So the Civil Rights Act of 1964 governs discrimination for grant recipients, and it has limits on when the federal government can take grants away, in part because Congress has given universities and other institutions these grants for a reason. They serve medical research. One of the biggest grant recipients in Boston is Boston Children's Hospital and Mass General Hospital, which are affiliated with Harvard. And so what the Trump administration is effectively saying is, even though Congress has given all these institutions these really valuable resources because they serve the common good, I'm going to hold these grants hostage until these institutions change their policies and, bend the way I want them to. And so for Harvard to stand up and say, actually, you're breaking the law here, you're violating our constitutional rights, I think that's a really important message for other institutions that may not have the institutional resources to push back.
It doesn't give cover, Lisa, for, does Paul Weiss reconsider what they've done? They've gotten a lot of pushback internally. Do other law firms that might be facing down what the Trump administration is trying to do they come out and say, we are going to stand up for this? Is this the start of a concerted pushback by independent private organizations or institutions in this country to say, no, Donald Trump, you are not an emperor, you are not a king. It is not what you say or the highway. We all have rights here.
I think it could be the beginning of something, and I hope it's the beginning of something. You're talking about the sort of institutions that constitute the soft power that make our civil society, right? If you strip away governments, what else makes us who we are? Academic institutions and long-lasting institutions that support the rule of law, like law firms. So do I think Harvard's pushback could give some others fortitude? Absolutely. And in particular, today, Katie, is the deadline for about a dozen plus law firms to respond to the EEOC, which sent them letters saying you're in violation of Title VII, the employment discrimination equivalent to Title VI in educational institutions, saying your DEI policies and practices are suspect, and we want a whole range of data and information from you so that we can assuage our concerns. Today's that deadline. There are over a dozen law firms that have not cut deals with the administration yet that owe the EEOC by its own demand. Responses today, we'll see if any of them push back.
By the way, Columbia is trying to take a little harder of a line as well.
Yes.
Now. Last night, they sent a letter saying that they're not going to acquiesce to the broader demands of the Trump administration. I want to play really quickly Leo Terrell. He's the head of this task force that's going after these schools. Here he is on Fox News last month talking about what the goals are.
What my role is as leader in the DOJ under Pam Bondi's administration, we are suing every one of these universities guilty of anti-Semitism. Under Title VI, we're taking away their money, Mark. We're going to bankrupt these universities. We're going to take away every single federal dollar. That is why we are targeting these universities.
Nicholas, might that come up in a lawsuit?
It already has. So on Friday, the Harvard faculty chapter of the American Association for University Professors sued the administration. And that quote was actually in the complaint because it reveals what's actually going on here, which is that the Trump administration does not like higher education and it does not like universities because it's full of faculty and students who think differently than him. One of the demands in the administration's most recent letter, I think, is worth emphasizing. It involves the appointment of a monitor that's acceptable to Trump who would look at every department and every teaching unit in the university to evaluate its viewpoint and to decide whether it is too biased toward one viewpoint that requires hiring a critical mass of whatever viewpoint the administration would favor. And so you can just imagine what that would look like in any university. So, a biology department that teaches about, scientific research in biology, the Trump administration could say, well, you don't have enough about, what we think biology means, or intelligent design, or any number of things that the administration cares about. Or for a physics department that doesn't teach that climate change is a hoax, you could imagine the Trump administration demanding the hiring of new faculty. Or, I teach at the law school, he could very easily require that we hire 100 people who say that when Donald Trump breaks the law, he's making America great again. And to the extent that we are a law school that teaches what the law is and what it means to break it, I think our independence and our ability to pursue knowledge and justice depends on resisting these kind of illegal demands.
Yeah, I think you're making a distinction between, and you tell me if I'm misconstruing this, a distinction between arguing that whatever Donald Trump does is right and a conservative viewpoint or conservative reading of the law or conservative originalist reading of the Constitution. Those are separate things. Nicholas Bowie, thanks so much for joining us. I appreciate it.